What's up, football fans, for week number 7 of the NFL picks and predictions for the 2023 season. And alright, before we even get underway, because we know I had my worst week the previous week. You guys know I had my worst week in pool history, in picks and predictions history. Playing over 15 years, I've never had a week that terrible. I went through middle of the pack, top of the middle, down to the basement. And lo and behold, people, look at what happens the next week. Not only do I win the week, so I got my money back. I've already got my buy-in back by winning the week with 13 out of 15 games correct. Not only did I pull that stunt off, but because a lot of people didn't, like nobody was going to get a perfect week, because even if you bet against Philadelphia, you didn't bet against San Francisco, or vice versa. Nobody bet against the two top teams in the NFC in the same week. I'm sorry, nobody did that. So, I mean, if you did, kudos, but did you get all the other games right? Because those are some Hail Marys, and those are the only 2 games that I got wrong. So, that'll be our recap here for week 6. I'm just incredibly happy because I went from 56 right at the bottom because of a 3-point week, right down to the bottom, my worst week in football, to the following week playing a little more conservative and winning the damn week. Though it did come down to the Monday night game. But I did win because, lo and behold, how about them Cowboys? Though they didn't play very well. I'm going to be honest with you. They didn't play as well as they should have. Though a lot of non-penalties called, you know, especially in that red zone. Just looking at you, refs, you know, when you're holding a guy trying to catch a football, I don't know, and we see it in slow motion every time, starts to get on a fan's nerves. But either way, yeah, I mean, Kansas City won handily over Denver, but not as handily as they should have, once again, for the Thursday night. And then Baltimore won against Tennessee. I was hesitating on that one. Glad I stayed with Baltimore, obviously. Washington over Atlanta. I never really had any doubts, but it was getting a little scary there in the second half. Minnesota over Chicago. A lot of people picking the Bears. Just because they won one game, so many people picking the Bears. And I'm like, one game in a whole season, a whole year, does not instill confidence. The Vikings might suck, but the Bears are worse. So I went with Minnesota and wasn't surprised to see them win. This is the game that really cinched it for me that I was going to do well this week. Cincinnati and Seattle. Had I done, let's say, 8 points, at least 8 points last week instead of 3, I probably would have picked Seattle. Cincinnati's not looking so hot, and Seattle seems to do comebacks incredibly well. And the fact of the matter is, they had an opportunity to win that game. It was right down to the wire, and Seattle had the opportunity and screwed up. Cincinnati gave them many opportunities in that fourth quarter to take the lead. Seattle just did not capitalize. So at the end of the day, I'm sort of glad, almost in a way, not that I did so horribly, but I did horrible enough to the point that I went with a more favorited team, being the Bengals over the Seahawks. But it was a very close game in Seattle and definitely nearly had them. San Francisco and Cleveland. San Francisco deserved to lose that game. If we had the Cowboys played that San Francisco team, the score would have been reversed. If anybody thinks otherwise, I don't know what type of football you're watching, because the San Francisco the Cowboys fought, we might have shot ourselves in the foot a little bit in that game. But damn, San Francisco was on, and they were totally off in this game. I picked the 49ers, and they're still probably the best team in the NFC, even with this loss. And Cleveland played well. I don't want to take that away from them, but San Francisco did not play well. I don't think anybody watching that game can tell me San Francisco was playing to their all-star level in that game. So I took my first loss there. Miami over Carolina was an obvious pick, though Carolina putting up 21 points was still impressive. Jacksonville over Indy. I didn't really second guess this one, though Indy sometimes pulls out these weird ones where they score like 2 possession wins over a team they shouldn't, or should be down to the wire. So a little hesitating, but Jacksonville cleaned up with 37-20. Houston over New Orleans was no question to me, because once again, New Orleans sucks. They just do. So yeah, Vegas over New England. It was a close game, but still, New England just. Bill Belichick is once again. Bill Belichick, I feel he's been riding on the Tom Brady greatness for a lot longer than I think people credit Bill Belichick with a lot of his prowess as a coach on Tom Brady winning Super Bowls. Not so much Bill Belichick is necessarily this all-star coach, but he had the golden boy of the NFL on his side for 2 decades. Sort of elevated him beyond the station of how people rate him, I think. Because you take 5 years ago, people would argue that Bill Belichick is the best coach in the NFL for the last 10 years. The best coach potentially in NFL history. People will make that argument. Once they take away Tom Brady, let's see how he does. It ain't so hot. So, and then the next game we have is Rams and Arizona. Rams was an easy pick. Arizona sucks too. And once again, when you can't buy off the refs, when you use up your budget and you only pay them off to win against the Cowboys, you ain't got no money left to bribe any more refs. I mean, this is what's going to happen. You're going to lose games. Philly and the Jets. How in the hell did the Jets beat Philly? I would never have picked the Jets. I am not unhappy at that. In a Hail Mary attempt on a Monday night, do I win the week or not, I might pick Cleveland over San Francisco. Never in a million years was I going to pick the Jets. And I'm still probably not going to pick the Jets anytime soon. But once again, this proves my point that Philadelphia, like Buffalo, or Cincinnati even, are supposed to be so much better than all the other teams. They're supposed to be the best team. They're supposed to be a top 5 team. And Kansas City the same way. 19-8 over Denver? Denver. Like, the Eagles are not winning these games. Just like KC, as I said, 19-8 over Denver. They are not winning these games like they should. They're not winning these games with blowouts. They're winning by a possession or 2 at best against anywhere from loser teams right up the way to, to mediocre average teams, to good teams. Sure, they have 5-1, but those 5 victories, none of them were like 40-7. So this super-powered team ain't looking so hot. So I'm not surprised they lost, but to the Jets, that one was surprising. And then Detroit over Tampa Bay. I hesitated on this one, and I'm glad I stuck with Detroit, I should say. But yeah, I did expect a better show to Tampa. I thought that'd be right down to a field goal or down to the wire. But it wasn't. Buffalo over the Giants was an easy pick, but once again, 14-9. The Giants nearly had Buffalo. What is happening this year to the NFL? I don't really think there's any true powerhouse team in this league so far, because they've all proven they lose to mediocre teams, and they also don't win these big blowouts anymore. The biggest blowouts realistically was Miami and Dallas. Dallas in the first 2 weeks, and then Miami in that crazy game, where they scored 70 points. We haven't really had very many blowouts that are expected blowouts. So anyways, and then the final game, of course, Dallas did beat the Chargers by a field goal, and we should have had probably a 2-possession game on them. There were some bad calls, but once again, we should have made up for a lot of those calls, and the Chargers did play. I think the Chargers overall did play a little bit better than the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have better talent, and that showed, and some of those, like that 18 rush yard touchdown by Dak was just a, yeah, let's go, let's prove our point. But either way, that week, fantastic. Won the week, 13 out of 15. I couldn't really hope for more, but now that boosted us up from 56 to 34th, but we still have some catching up to do. We still have plenty of catching up to do to catch the leader, because once again, the average points that we need by the end of week 7 here, we need 70 points. So I need another 14 points from this week. Let's talk about it. Week number 7. I need, basically, I can't do it yet. I can't get it because there's only 13 games played. So at best, I will end this week 7 with a 69. I kind of like that number, but it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to do it. However, never say never. We were only 2 games off last week, and I think the worst luck in my football picking career is behind me. Let's talk about these games. We have New Orleans and Jacksonville. As I said, I don't give any credit to New Orleans. It's Jacksonville. I know they're going into New Orleans. Don't care. Let's start Thursday night off right. Jacksonville Jaguars for this one. Vegas over Chicago. Once again, Chicago's got to prove to me they can win more than 1 or even 2 games. They got to prove to me that they got a hot streak, that they're on a roll before I start picking them. Raiders might suck, and they're an average team, but the Bears are definitely worse on paper. I'm just going with Vegas for that simple choice. Cleveland is coming off a high of beating San Francisco. That is dangerous, especially going into Indianapolis when a team wins a game they shouldn't. And sometimes they rest on their laurels or they get a big head. I don't think that's going to happen to Cleveland. I think this is still going to be a tight game, but I think Cleveland's got it. Then we go Buffalo and New England. Once again, I'm not picking Bill Belichick until he shows me he can do something without Brady. So, nope, not happening. Buffalo Bills all the way for that one. Washington over the Giants. Believe it or not, I'm humming and hawing this one. I really am. For some reason, division and rivalries are weird. And I just feel like maybe the Giants are finally going to win their game. Maybe. But I played conservative last week. Very conservative. I had like one actual pick. I think it was the Houston pick that a lot of people didn't pick. But I picked very conservatively last week. Going a tad more liberal this week, I guess. Picking Jacksonville. But no, not really. I think I'm sticking with playing conservative seemed to work last week. I'm going to play a little more conservative this week than more liberal. So I'm going to stick with my Washington pick over the Giants, even though they're going into New York. Then Tampa Bay over Atlanta. I'm only giving this to Tampa because I'm giving them the 3 points. And Detroit is proving that they're a much better team than I originally at week 1 gave them credit for. And lo and behold, I'm picking Detroit over Baltimore in Baltimore. So Tampa Bay, after losing to Detroit, they're in Tampa. I got them over Atlanta. And then Detroit over Baltimore in Baltimore. So I don't know how those ones are going to shape up, but that's gonna determine how my 2 o'clock is going to go. I'm ending my 2 o'clock games on a few, maybe that's more down to the wire or close, and I should think about that a little more. But for right now, I'm not locking it in, but, because anything can change. If you hear about an injury, on Saturday, you're going to change your pick on Sunday. It's just going to happen. But as it stands, that's what I'm going with. Rams over Pittsburgh, no question in my mind. Seattle over Arizona, same deal. They had the opportunity to beat Cincinnati, and they would have. And Arizona, once again, they're like the Bears. They're not very good. Green Bay over Denver. Honestly, Denver's so weird because they suck, and then they nearly win, then they suck, then they win for some reason, then they suck, so I don't know. But Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers isn't so hot, but I don't know. Picking Denver, it's like the Bears. It's going to take me a lot to pick Denver, even at home. Then Kansas City over the Chargers, yes. Though I think the Chargers are going to be pissed off losing to the Cowboys. They're going to come out swinging. Kansas City better show that they can do something, because that one possession game over Denver doesn't prove that Kansas City's anything to write home about either. As I said, there are no powerhouse teams as far as I'm concerned currently. Philadelphia over Miami. That's a very close game. If anybody picks Miami, kudos to you. I don't blame you for picking Miami, because Philly just lost to the Jets. I think that I'm hoping what that did was light a fire under their ass, that they cannot just coast on, well, we're the best team, just because they have a good record. Well, you just lost to one of the worst teams. So why don't you, start playing some actual football out there on the field. And then finally, San Francisco over Minnesota. Even in Minnesota, Minnesota's not even a barely average team at best. And it's still San Francisco, even though they lost to Cleveland. So, yeah. Those are my picks, and that's, of course, the Monday night picks. So those are my picks. Only 13 games here in Week 7. I need all 13 wins to try to even catch the leader. So, once again, we have to average 10 points a week to try to get to the top of the food chain. It's unlikely, and even if this happens, most of these are favorited already picks. It's unlikely that even if I get most of these right, that I pull too far ahead, because a lot of people are going to play conservative this week. A lot of people are going to pick many of the favorites. A lot of them look like blowouts, easy picks. But any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen. So those are my picks for week number 7. Let's hope my conservative streak of picking football continues here into week 7. And that's it from me, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you back here next time on the next picks and predictions. Have a good one, everyone.